Welcome to the Town of Williston's Development Review Board for December 9th. My name is Scott Riley. I'm the Vice Chair. We have two items on the agenda for tonight. One is a certificate of appropriateness, and then in the public hearing we have Adams Real Properties. Emily is going to go through the requirements for the meeting.
Yes. Thank you, Scott. Please silence your phones and devices. For Zoom technical questions, contact me through the Zoom chat. The Development Review Board follows rules of procedure and conducts quasi-judicial proceedings, aka public hearings like court, pursuant to the Williston Unified Development Bylaw, Chapter 6 and Appendix A. The powers of the DRB are established in and limited by this bylaw, as well as state statute, and expounded upon in the staff reports for each public hearing application. As volunteer public officials, the DRB is held to the standards of the Williston Volunteer Policy and the Williston Conflict of Interest Ordinance. For any public hearing item tonight, does any member of the DRB wish to be excused on account of a conflict of interest? Secondly, does any DRB member wish to report an ex parte contact? Ex parte contact means communicating with or receiving communications from any person in regards to an application on tonight's agenda. Alrighty.
Call the roll.
Yes, roll call vote. Scott Riley,
I'm here.
Pete Kelly,
Present.
Brian Curtis,
Here.
Jim Brazilera.
Present.
And we would like to welcome Jim to the board. Tonight is his first meeting. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Nate and Matt are absent.
So we do have four members of the DRB here. We do have a quorum. Anything else, Emily?
That's it.
Okay. All right. We're going to open the meeting at 7:04. First up on the agenda is the public forum. This is an opportunity for anybody, either in the audience physically or online, to bring something before the board that is not on the agenda.
No chats or raised hands on Zoom. There are two public attendees.
Great. We'll proceed to the certificate of appropriateness. This is HP 26-02. Matt Parisi requesting a certificate of appropriateness to modify the materials of the front steps of 7997 Williston Road. Matt here?
He is not online or in person. Because this is not a discretionary permit hearing, the applicant does not need to be present.
Okay.
He did attend the historic committee meeting.
Great. Could you run us through his proposal, please?
Yep. So this is a request for a certificate of appropriateness at 7997 Williston Road, which is located in the historic register area of the Village Zoning District. A determination of contributing structure status letter was issued by me as zoning administrator on October 7th, that this structure is a historic dwelling. What the applicant proposes to do in summary is replace the failing concrete and stone front steps with wooden steps that meet the rise and run of modern day code and have railings on both sides. The Historic and Design Advisory Committee recommended that it complied as proposed. Through our review and research, we determined that the concrete stairs and the stone overlay on them is not an original material, and therefore changing from the stone concrete material to wood is acceptable in the historic district. The wood tread is an Angelique hardwood wood, which has a mahogany-like appearance, and the stair stringer is typical pressure-treated pine. The railings are a very simple design, metal railing. So we included that material specification in the findings of fact, and their recommendation is that this change complies as proposed. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Applicant is not here. Does anybody on the board have any questions about the certificate of appropriateness?
No.
No.
No. Okay. I don't have any questions for it either. It's pretty straightforward. We'll review it when we Next up is DP 19-11.1 Adams Road Properties. Come on up. Jason and Doug, welcome.
Thank you.
If you would state your full names and your addresses for the record, please.
Jason Adams, 207 Boyer Circle, Suite 30. That's in Williston. Doug Goulet, 240 South Ridge Road, Williston.
Great, thank you. We're gonna let staff go first.
Thank you, Scott. This is a request for pre-application review of a 9-lot residential development on Lot 1, Caroline Court of the Adams subdivision. The lot is vacant. At the time of subdivision, it had concept plan review for a daycare facility, but that never moved past the pre-application review phase. The parcel size is 1.58 acres, where it has access onto a private road, Caroline Court. It's located in the residential zoning district. It was not subject to design review and is not subject to Conservation Commission review. Staff's recommendation tonight is to take testimony and close the hearing, deliberate, and approve the pre-application recommendations. This development must either proceed as an amendment to the overall subdivision or as Lot 1 alone, especially as it pertains to Chapter 11 and 19. I do have a couple recommendations to modify the findings of fact. They're not in your packets this evening, but when we get to that part of the staff report, I can screen share. So this subdivision went through pre-application review in 2018, discretionary permit approval in 2019, and final plans were filed in 2020. Interdepartmental comments, the Public Works Department commented, and their comments are included as a recommendation. The fire department comments are included, but with limitations that they can only be enforced to the extent they conform with the standards of the Unified Development Bylaw. The E911 coordinator has not commented on this application, but they will need to be involved closer to final plans when addressing is assigned for the units. No comment letters were received at the time of mail-out nor up until this evening. For the residential zoning district, this project must comply with the 25-foot setback to Caroline Court and Mountain View Road, and it meets the frontage requirements of 40 feet. The original subdivision was developed with an open space pattern. A small portion of Lot 1 is constrained by a wetland buffer and must be properly delineated. Compliance is anticipated with the pedestrian-friendly development standards. All 9 units must have a principal entrance facing the street. So this lot has its curb cut and its primary frontage on Caroline Court. And then the homes that have frontage along Mountain View Road have a secondary door that faces Mountain View Road from the garage. So it's not a dead wall facing Mountain View Road. The elevation that has been shown on the north side will have a door facing Mountain View. Chapter 11, Affordable Homes and Growth Management. This is where those 2 tracks come into play with how the project proceeds to the next phase of permitting. So it can either proceed directly to discretionary permit as an inclusionary zoning project, where a certain number of the units would need to be perpetually affordable, and that documentation would be provided at discretionary permit. The second option is to be a market rate project and proceed to growth management review, which takes place in March 2026. The applicant doesn't need to decide between these 2 options tonight. The motion lays out the pathway for them to move forward and make decisions over the coming weeks and months. Chapter 19, Density. Compliance is anticipated. There's 2 options for looking through both the growth management standards and the density standards. It's either looking at the entire subdivision or Lot 1 as it's been created. Both options have implications for how density and the density bonus works, and then what the growth management and inclusionary requirements will be. Based on my review of this and what the applicant communicated by email today, sounds like most likely they're going to go with option 2 with the base density, and then the affordable requirement will be based on the inclusionary zoning standards rather than growth management. So it's option 2 of option 2 in the right-hand column. I should have used different nomenclature, apologies.
But as you indicated, they don't need to decide tonight.
Correct, they don't need to decide tonight.
Okay.
Access, connectivity, and traffic studies of Chapter 13. So compliance is anticipated here. They're showing a 16-foot wide driveway, which may need to be adjusted up to 20 feet. Up to 9 units may be served by a shared private driveway. And that standard says it must be 14 to 16 feet in width. I do want to note, as a little side note, that the bylaw was amended in April 2025. Previously, only 5 homes could be on a shared private driveway. Now it's up to 9. There is a potential bylaw amendment that would make it so a development with 8 to 9 units on a private driveway needs to be 20 feet in width. And there's some sequencing things for the applicant to be mindful of when a project vests and when a bylaw is warned for hearing with the select board, how it is interpreted. So it's just something to be mindful of, and that we'll advise the applicant on so that their discretionary permit complies with the bylaws when it's submitted. Lot 1 is served by a curb cut onto Caroline Court, and Caroline Court is a private dead-end road in compliance with the consolidated access standards of Chapter 13. Off-street parking and loading. There's no minimum or maximum parking requirement for 1 and 2 household dwellings, nor is there a bicycle parking or end-of-trip facility requirement. On-site infrastructure. So for circulation, there must be a sidewalk completed along the eastern side of Caroline Court and a multi-use path along Lot 1's frontage. Staff recommends that the construction of the path is commensurate with the 9-unit development. I do want to note that in the recommended staff changes to the recommendations would be for the easement to be extended along Lot 2 and Lot 9. Lot 9 is the open space, so that there's a path easement along the entire property frontage of Mountain View Road, but the construction is only required along the Lot 1 frontage.
That's something that's okay with you guys?
Well, there currently is a 15-foot easement
It's
west of Caroline Court.
Yep, west of Caroline Court, it's a 15-foot trail easement,
Right.
which doesn't comply with the public works specifications today or the zoning bylaw today for multi-use connections, because typically a 30-foot easement is required for multi-use path. So it would just be expanding the width of that easement on lots 2 and 9.
Okay.
But not construction on those segments.
Can we discuss that now, or should we wait till
We
later?
can talk about it.
Okay. So a couple things about that is, we currently have a 15-foot easement. The existing multi-use path near Adams Farm Market is, I would say, roughly, according to Google Earth, 15 feet from the pavement. Setting back 30 feet in this part seems like it's going to be different from most of the other lots on Mountain View Road. The interesting thing too on the spec, you have to center the path on the center of the 30-foot right-of-way. So essentially we're adding 9 feet of drainage swale between Mountain View Road and this path. So we're gonna have like 20 to 25 feet between Mountain View Road and this path, which is also encroaching into the usable land because it's only a 25-foot setback. So I'm all for an easement, and I actually really support a path along the entirety of Mountain View Road. 30 feet just seems really excessive here, and it kind of starts limiting the land use past that setback. So I was hoping, I noticed Sally's Way had a 20-foot shown on their final plan that was online. So I was thinking maybe we could reduce it to 15 or 20 feet, and that would at least keep it in the setback.
Got an opinion on that?
I'll defer to Christine with DPW.
Christine, just identify yourself.
Thank you, Christine Doherty, Assistant Director of Public Works. Happy to address the concerns here. So, as Emily identified, since some of these previous projects have gone through reviews and we've made updates to our standard specifications, I can't speak to any potential restrictions or why Sally's Way ended up at 20. I know that 20 feet is not adequate for being able to do maintenance. What we need to be able to do is bring equipment on either side of a path. Our standard is 10 foot wide for that path, and then combined with our right-of-way. So in order for us to meet our standard specifications, it would have to be 30 feet. I understand that there's concerns about the potential impacts of that. The easement doesn't necessarily limit the use of the property, but it just says there can't be any permanent structures in the way, and if there are, then they may need to be removed if we need to get in there and do maintenance. It's just preventing permanent structures from being impacting that easement area. But this is consistent with the goals of the town's plans for multi-use, multimodal transportation. And so that is the direction we are trying to apply, and we're trying to get to in all of our projects along Mountain View Road.
Okay.
It's a timing thing, unfortunately, is the short answer of that.
I will say on that spec though, that you got a 10-foot path and a 1-foot shoulder, so it's 12 feet. You're asking for a 30-foot right-of-way, so that's 60% of the right-of-way really is never going to be used because it slopes down at 3 to 1. You're not going to really get equipment in there to be doing maintenance. You're going to use that 12-foot strip.
I'm not going to debate our specifications.
Basically, right, the town is saying the typical standard is 30-foot easement for a bike path, and that the entire easement will be on private property, that they don't intend on using any of Mountain View Road's right-of-way for a future multi-use path. So it's burdening every landowner with the entire path and drainage, and we can't build to the 25-foot front yard setback because there might be a bike path there. So it is contradictory to, the zoning setbacks. It's overreaching.
So guys,
Yeah.
sue the town, because this is ridiculous. This is akin to taking.
I don't
You're limiting what people can do with private property, and 30 feet is huge.
Okay.
So now you can debate it with me.
I have no need to debate it.
It's a crazy.
I apologize, Scott, but I don't need to debate that here.
No, I get it, but it's frustrating to hear this type of thing.
I understand.
Even as a board member,
I understand.
I support the town
Yep.
and the bylaw, and we uphold the rules, but
Right.
this is one of those things that pops up from time to time that's a big piece of land.
If you're going cross-country, across a field or a meadow or something, then it makes sense, right? You need 30 feet to do all your infrastructure. But, along Mountain View Road,
Yeah,
it's likely, it's as Jason said, it's not going to be 20 or 25 feet. Look at where it is along Adams, down between Old Stage and North Williston. In some places, it's within like 3 feet of the edge of Mountain View Road, because no one was willing to probably give the town an easement for it. But now they're going to the extreme, so instead of having a 3-foot green belt, you're going to have 25 feet of.
So
It's a taking.
explain to me one more time, this dimensional standard.
The dimensional standard is-
Hold on, Christie, on that.
Yes. Yep.
This dimensional standard is part of the bylaws that is coming up.
No, it's current.
It's current.
So it's
As of
where the
2020-22, we require 30-foot easement for 10-foot wide recreational paths. This plan previously showed 8 feet of pavement on their path. It's reflective of a previous standard specification for DPW. Our specifications today is 10 feet wide, and that requires a 30-foot wide easement in order to construct, maintain, repair as needed moving forward. We are asking the applicant to construct the path along the Lot 1 as part of the development. We are conceding not to seek any developments on Lot 2 or Lot 9, but that connectivity is critical for us to be able to make future connections to the Brennan Woods community. DPWS goes after a lot of grant money for constructing paths all through this community. If I don't have a place to connect that path to across that open space, we won't get the grant.
So this is what I'm wondering. I'm not debating if I'm gonna have to pay for this path or not on lot one. I think it's very clear in the bylaws I will be.
Right.
What I'm asking for is, can we extend that path across the town parcel to Brennan Woods, so there is an actual connection from Caroline Court to Brennan Woods? Otherwise, you're gonna be asking me to build 300 feet of path that leads from Caroline Court to nothing. It's gonna be a huge liability. It's all on private property. I'm hoping to keep these as rentals. I mean, picture a kid looking at a 300-foot, 10-foot wide, freshly paved strip down the road. It's gonna be fast biking, it's gonna be skateboarding. Like, I'm gonna have to put up like Jersey barriers on this thing for 10 years until the rest of the path gets built, maybe. It just, I would love to see if the path could be a path, could connect something. Could like my impact fees be allocated to finish that section from Caroline Court to Brennan Woods as like a justification of having a complete path instead of just a landing strip of pavement?
There's objectives to try to get a path along Mountain View Road. This is part of our connectivity goals. We are working on it about one piece at a time as we can. We get the opportunity. We take every bite of the apple we can get. If that path is connected, then we certainly will go after grant money. I'm not going to say it's the highest priority. I'm not going to say it'll be the first and the next one we go after, because it has to be put into, take a look at the entire town-wide plans and programs related to paths and connectivity. But yes, if there is a path there, it does make it more likely that I will be able to, or whoever will be successful or more likely to be successful in getting grant money to build that path. But we don't typically build paths or sidewalks just out of general funding.
I also, what we had was a 15-foot easement already existing on lot 2. They were asking for a 30-foot easement on lot 1. And for me to build the path. I didn't contest any of that. I asked if the path could be extended so it leads to somewhere. And I did ask if we could reduce the easement width. This was today. Now they're asking for a 30-foot easement across the entire 500-foot parcel because of that email I sent.
Because you're making updates and changes to your plan. If you were constructing based on your final approved plans, then we would be not sitting here having this conversation. But as we've discussed before, if they're going to be making changes to the site and making changes to their final approved plans, then we need to take the opportunity to bring them up to standards that are here today. And this is the standard today, that we would be seeking a 30-foot wide easement for a 10-foot wide multi-use path across the property.
So for the DRB's focus tonight, the bylaw requirement is that a sidewalk or multi-use path be constructed along existing and proposed road frontage. The recommendation that I have drafted is that the path be constructed along Lot 1 Mountain View Road frontage, and then the 15-foot trail easement on the western side be updated and modernized to the 30-foot path easement. The questions about...
For just lot 1?
Shift back.
Maybe you could put it up on the screen.
Yeah. So in red is where and I guess it's probably not as big as it could be. So on lot 1, this is where the multi-use path will be constructed.
And just bear with me for a second. Jason and Doug, what's the distance? Emily, can you go back?
The lot frontage is 282 feet approximately for
And
lot 1.
what's the distance from the building envelope, dotted line to the yellow line?
25 feet.
That's 25 feet. So
That's-
so you would need to come in another 5 feet into the building envelope from the yellow line.
We're asking for no permanent structures within that So the easement may overlap in some of that parcel, yes, but it's not we're not asking for ownership of that land. We're asking for no permanent structures, nothing permanent in that area that would prohibit us from doing maintenance, repairs, or anything of that nature that may be required for that path.
But how does the maintenance work on that? Because this would be a town path on a private
It wouldn't-
facility
it would-
with drainage swales. So do those have to be maintained for any stormwater permits?
It would-
Because I can't go in and mow those, right?
That's not, no, okay, so they would not necessarily be tied to stormwater permits. They're first to start with. Secondary, they would not necessarily transfer right to the town until there is connectivity. We'd get an irrevocable offer of dedication to be able to take it when we have ability to make connection and maintain it the way we need to maintain it. But we're not going, you can answer some of your questions, and we have areas of path like this all throughout the town as we continue to try to make connectivity where we can, how we can, every opportunity we get to continue to make that connectivity. But until we have that connectivity and can do maintenance and can make it functional, no, it does not transfer to the town right away.
Okay, so the path gets built, then it's 100% my job to maintain until the connectivity is built.
Jason,
right?
I understand your concerns. It's, and what you're expressing is similar concerns that have been expressed by other individuals that want to make improvements to their property. And I understand that. And I understand that it feels frustrating. I understand that, you're sharing your concerns and discontent with that. I'm simply applying our policies as they are today.
Right. And I was asking for a reduction of that width, which was just an ask. And what did I get for asking? An extension of a 30-foot easement, another 800 feet?
That's not what happened here, Jason, no, because what's happening is you're changing your final plans, which means that we're going to look at this whole development, because this is part of the development, this is part of this. And so in order to make it and bring it up to speed, or up to standards, then yes, we do need to be able to make connectivity along and across the entirety of the property.
But it says, on your comments, it says 30-foot easement of the parcel parallel to Mountain View Road. Referring to this application, wouldn't that be lot 1?
You're in a pre-application.
So is everything based on the town of Williston Public Works path section, typical path section?
That's correct.
So it shows a 30-foot right-of-way for the path, the drainage, and everything. It makes no mention that that 30 feet is starting at a town road right-of-way. I mean, that's how Public Works is interpreting it. It doesn't show that there. It just says if you're building a bike path, there should be a 30-foot right-of-way. Well, in this case, 15 of it could be on Jason's property. The other 15 overlaps with the existing right-of-way on Mountain View Road. They have the area to maintain that. The premise that this 30 feet starts at a property line isn't reflective on this detail. It just doesn't show that. It doesn't say this whole 30 feet.
But you know as well as I do, they're shooting for connectivity.
I don't think there's any objection to doing any of this. It's just the 30-foot taking, why can't why can't they use some of Mountain View Road to build this path in? Or do the drainage or something, but.
Could you just clarify on your
So if
comments,
I can interrupt, Jason.
I need clarification. Were your comments referring to just lot 1 or the entire Caroline Court parcel, basically from the town parcel to the Katy Lane parcel?
So when I made my initial comments, I was strictly looking at one part of a development. Again, this is pre-application.
Yeah.
And what gets discussed here is at a very high level. But as we get further into your design and your site plans, that simply can change. There could be, there may be more comments, there may be different comments. That's the whole point of the pre-app, right? Very high level look at this. But when I had to start digging into this project more and started looking back at some of the previous meetings that we've had and standards and conversations that have been had around whether or not it's, when these types of changes happen to a parcel, to an existing plan or an existing pre-approved development, that is the time to make sure that it is current with our current standards. And in that lens, looking at this project more holistically and not just as a simple pre-app,
And what you would look for is a 30-foot easement across the entire original 40-acre parcel.
That's correct.
So it would go into my stormwater infiltration basin too.
Again, I have not looked at your detailed designs, so I'm not sure what
Just
you're.
took a bigger look at it.
So I think for the DRB, we can just focus on the fact that there's engineering work that's gonna have to come into play after pre-application review. What the recommendations are is path gets constructed along lot 1, and the easement is provided along lots 1, 2, and 9, which is the entirety of the frontage on Mountain View Road.
That is in order to bring it to current standards.
So moving
You,
forward.
Jason, do you have the ability to, just hear me out for a second, do you have the ability to shift the development to the south at all?
I can absolutely shift it, yep, I absolutely could.
If you need, if you need to get away from the.
But I'm gonna shift it, and then what's gonna change then? This is.
No, I didn't ask you that. I just asked you if you had the ability
I
to
could,
shift.
yeah, I could,
Okay.
yeah.
From my opening comment, you can tell I don't like this anymore, you do. So it's, but I do understand the town's desire for connectivity.
Oh, I
And Christine, let me ask you one more time, just to reiterate, you're saying that in order for the town to get funding, the funding requirements are based on a 30-foot right-of-way?
That's not what I've said.
Okay.
I said-
Can you
I said-
go over that one more time?
Yes, so one of Jason's asks in his email that he sent today, so I really haven't had a lot of a chance to look at too many of these things, unfortunately, just took a look at what I could for the little extra time I had in my day today. When I go after, I do a lot of the grant writing, that's why I say I, but when DPW goes for grants, connectivity is almost always one of the things they look at. Where is that path going to? And so the reason why DPW is pushing for construction of the path on lot 1, is because, and this goes back to Jason's ask and comment, that he would like to see that path continue across to the Brennan Woods Drive, because there's sidewalks and community and connectivity there. The town owns that parcel, which would make that pretty easy for us to do, because we're not going to go after easements from other private parties. And so that to me would look like a great opportunity to do that. Again, I'm not going to say that's going to be something that would be funded through alternative funding or anything like that. All I'm going to say is our typical practices today for getting sidewalks, paths, or any type of connectivity like that done and constructed is through grants. And this would be a good opportunity to do that. And I have certainly no objections to putting that on our list of projects to to pursue granting for, but I'm not prepared to sit here and say when that will be, as we are chasing other projects. We have other active grants, but I certainly, seems like a great opportunity and one that we would be looking at.
And for all our DRB members, just a point of clarification that your focus is limited to reviewing development on this parcel. And any project prioritization that Public Works does is a totally separate process from administering the bylaw. It's municipal capital and infrastructure planning. Jason also asked the question about could impact fees be used as an offset. That's also a slightly separate conversation. Each one of these single-family homes is going to pay a roughly $1,800 transportation impact fee. And with 8 or 9 units, that's somewhere between like $14,000 and $16,000. So if that funding can be used for off-site improvements is not a question for the board to decide or have to answer. It's a question for the planning director and the DPW director to determine if that's a possibility, and it would ultimately be something that the select board would have to approve as part of the transportation impact fee and contributions chapter of the bylaw.
Okay. Jason, what else do you want to add to that?
I thought that's it, nothing else.
Okay.
I've got one other thing. So the fire department, as they always do, asks for 30 feet between buildings. We're thinking about trying to accommodate that, and if we do, we'll lose a unit. So, you know, it's still a work in progress, but now we're thinking 8 units with one of those, or 2 of the units being within a single duplex. Just reconfiguring, shifting units around a little bit.
Have you been to talk to the fire department yet?
No,
So
just,
it's sort of, but
just, no, we haven't.
No, I'm gonna comply with it. I'm just gonna do the 30 foot. I don't really wanna get into the vinyl siding debate.
okay.
So the question we have is, or I have procedurally is, can we come back at discretionary with that change from, 9 lots as presented to 8 lots looking somewhat different than what you're looking at tonight? Or does that mean we should come back to pre-app with a 8 lot layout? How much can we change without having to come back and do this again?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I think you can change a fair bit, and 8 units would line up with that option 2 pathway at the base density. So if things are shifting on the site, if there's more duplexes or triplexes instead of all singles, I think there's a fair bit of flexibility what gets presented at discretionary permit, provided as long as it stays to the scope of lot 1. If you want to change lot 2 at the same time, then we might have to rethink about things.
It would just be minor,
Yeah.
shuffling of buildings as you see here now, so.
So you got cut off. You don't think you finished your narrative.
Do we feel like we're settled on questions and discussions for
Well, I think the board's going to want to discuss it in
deliberations?
deliberation.
Yeah, but for the staff report on,
Well, we're going to want to talk about it. So as long
Yeah.
as Jason is comfortable with everything you needed to say.
I have a question about the 30-foot separation of the buildings. Is that supported by the bylaws?
that is not supported by the bylaws. So what will happen is the fire department will provide comment at discretionary permit. It will either not be adopted as a condition of approval, or if their memo is adopted as a condition of approval, it will include the notation that it can only be enforced to the extent it complies with the bylaw. So there's nothing through our discretionary permit approval and final plans review that would hold the applicant to 30 feet. If they wanted to voluntarily provide that, they're welcome to, but we won't be mandating it because we can't do everything the fire department wants because it's not all in the bylaw. Public works specifications are a different animal because they're specifically mentioned as design components in the bylaw.
So you don't have to reconfigure.
Yeah, no, we get it.
No, I don't, but I think kind of like working with Public Works and the fire department, when you have a relationship that's ongoing, you risk future interactions, and like that is the known thing that is never talked about here in these meetings, is that
Right.
you are held hostage all the time.
You're
All
right.
the time, every step of the way. So, I mean, yeah, it's not in the bylaw, but what's the argument, I don't wanna put a fireman's life at risk either.
Hold on, I'm out. I did that for you, my friend,
Yeah, thank you.
okay? So don't be
Thank you.
barking at me,
Yeah,
okay?
yep, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Any questions?
No.
Right. Anything else on this topic?
Just because you are design review, I guess we didn't even look at the elevations or the plans, but my goal here was a really efficient design. I've spaced everything out to maximize lumber. It's good, they're small units, but they're gonna be, my goal is to make them all affordable. I can't commit to that because we don't know what the infrastructure cost is.
And are these for sale or are you going to rent?
I'm gonna rent them.
You're
I'm hoping to rent them, yeah.
And
But-
that's what it looks like.
I just think this is a really cool idea. I think it's a good option. It's almost like an ADU, but it's like a neighborhood of them. It's gonna be an affordable thing. I think I'm gonna try to come in. I don't want to say numbers, but like, I think this is a really good idea. I think it could be a good model for other things. I hope it happens.
I agree with you. I think there's nothing like this around and there's a need for it. Emily, back to you.
Yes. So for Chapter 15, on-site infrastructure, all utilities must be located underground. Municipal water and sewer must comply with the public works specifications, including the payment of engineering fees. Chapter 16, maintenance, snow storage must be shown in compliance, including siting to avoid the landscaping and water quality impact areas. Solid waste containers must be sited on concrete and screened, which is shown in sketch plan at the end of the driveway. Landscaping, the discretionary permit must include a landscaping plan in compliance with Table 23A. Brennan Park, which is a public park, is not well categorized in any of the adjoining land uses. At the past discretionary permit review, it was mixed use, including residential. So we're continuing that precedent here. Therefore, on that east side, the minimum buffer width and setback width would be 13 feet with a type 2 dense plantings buffer. Street trees, the discretionary permit shall include street trees along Caroline Court and Mountain View Road frontages. In the recommended change to the recommendations, I have added required street trees may be cited to avoid conflicts with the multi-use path and or utilities per DPW advice.
Thank you. I was just going to ask you about that.
Yep. Conservation areas, these standards aren't applicable. They're either not mapped on the property or they were considered in the subdivision review whereby Lot 1 was allowed to be created. Watershed health, there is a delineated wetland and wetland buffer on the property. The site plan shows boulders that are spaced 30 to 50 feet apart, which is inadequate to prevent mowing and recreation in that buffer. So at DP, there needs to be a better method of delineation, either fence or more boulders along those areas, as well as the submission of a professionally prepared runoff and erosion control plan. Outdoor lighting, a plan is not required for 1 and 2 household dwellings. Official map, this is also where that multi-use path requirement comes from. And impact fees are assessed at time of administrative permit. I'm going to jump now to the Word document where I show my recommended modifications to recommendations. So what wasn't discussed in Chapter 13 that was an oversight was WDB 13.3.
Can you pump that up?
Oh yeah, that's tiny.
I can't even see what my bifocal is.
So Chapter 13, which is the access chapter, has some standards about safe, adequate pedestrian access. So the recommendation is that for the driveway, provide signage, sidewalks, and/or pavement markings or texture to reduce conflicts between cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles along the shared private driveway, and a sidewalk along the driveway segment from Caroline Court to the first unit. So I'm going to jump back over to the site plan to explain that one. So the intent here is that the neighbors walking along the shared private driveway, a full sidewalk along this is probably overkill, but some sort of either a sign that pedestrians and cyclists may use the driveway, striping, and the portion of the driveway where there is some grading as it comes into Caroline Court, providing some sort of sidewalk. The sidewalk that you see ghosted underneath here is from the daycare concept plan. I'm going to jump over to another. Site plan. So there's a couple options in the bylaw for how that be accomplished to provide that pedestrian and cyclist safety.
And could you go back to the wording? We need to talk about deliberation as well.
So potentially, we could have it painted 2 or 3 foot strip for pedestrians along the 20 foot. So vehicles could have 17 feet, which is still more than the 16 that we're required to have now.
Yes, and whether it's gonna be 20 feet or not is a timing game just on when a discretionary permit application is vested with the bylaws. But yeah, it could be striping along a portion of the driveway, signage, and really that there's a sidewalk for that critical section where the driveway curves as it approaches Caroline Court.
But the 20 feet doesn't prohibit the striping of a portion of it being for pedestrians, in other words.
Right.
It still gives ample space for traffic. I mean, these are 1-bedroom units, correct, Jason? Is that right? Not going to be a lot of traffic.
Okay.
The second one is chapter 15, along lot 1 frontage, sidewalk completed along Caroline Court and multi-use path along Mountain View Road. The addition is along lots 2 and 9, provide multi-use path easement. And then
Width to be determined.
What was that, Doug?
Width to be determined.
2F,
Allow them all.
street trees along west and northern property frontages on roads. The required street trees may be cited to avoid conflicts with the multi-use path and/or utilities per DPW advice. So those are the 3 recommended changes to the recommendation.
Any comments on the, other than the obvious?
No.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Any comments from the board?
Nope.
Before you, if you're thinking about closing out, I did have one thing, Scott, that we didn't touch on. Public Works, comment 16, dead end streets are not permitted, a cul-de-sac is required. This is not a street, it qualifies, as Emily said in her overview, as a driveway, so we believe that that is an incorrect
Christie?
statement.
Understood.
Great, thanks.
Quick, Emily, you make a note of that? Of the Doug's comment, please?
Number 16.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's get amendment or change on it. Anything else? Anything else from the board?
Nope.
Christine? Anything else? Emily?
We have 2 members of the public in attendance. Maggie Marvin put 2 questions/comments in the chat. Her first comment, as neighbors that abut this property, we are concerned with the increase in traffic on Caroline Court and Mountain View Road. And the second comment, if the development is moved 5 feet south, is it too close to the wetlands? So starting with that wetlands question, I think there is ample space for things to shift and flex on this site. We typically get concerned when, a building footprint is so close to the wetland buffer that you couldn't get like a lawnmower around it and maintain the site, but I think there's significant space, even if it is just a couple of feet, to be able to provide some lawn distance between the house and the buffer. The question about traffic, we are not recommending that there be a traffic study conducted for this development. It's 9 one-bedroom dwellings. What a traffic study would likely say is that the stop sign onto Mountain View Road is an adequate traffic feature to control vehicles coming and going on Caroline Court. Vehicles on Mountain View Road have the right-of-way for turning movements, and the PM peak trips generated would be quite low for these homes, and all residential dwellings pay a transportation impact fee. If the attendees on Zoom have any other questions, it looks like Dave O'Rourke. Will there be guest parking for each unit? So our bylaw does not have that level of specificity in our parking standards. There's no minimum or maximum parking required for a dwelling. I think these have 1-car garages.
They're actually gonna have 2-car garages.
2-car
with a
garages.
driveway big enough for 2 cars, so I don't think overflow parking is gonna be an issue, especially when we.
So it's a 2-car garage for 1 bedroom,
Correct, yeah, and especially if
and then you have a driveway in front.
a driveway in front, 2-car garage.
2-car, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's-
and the road's gonna be increased to 24 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions online?
No other
Can I just
comments
comment on
online.
Maggie's? Maggie, we will try to keep the houses as far north as we can.
No other comments or questions. Dave O'Rourke responded to the parking question. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, good. Okay, one more time to the board. Any questions or comments?
I'm good.
I guess I do have just one, maybe it doesn't matter for this conversation, but what's the building look like on Mountain View? Like, we see a picture of it.
The building on Mountain View?
Like, yeah, what are we looking at when you got it on view? Is it gonna be?
Do you have that, rear
Everybody gets
elevation?
an elevation of that view.
So this is the rear elevation, so, with, just to comment on that, I guess that is like the back of the houses, so you can see that from Mountain View. I guess if we're trying to minimize the appearance of the back looking, the look of the back of the house, this kind of looks like the gable end of a typical house, so I don't know if that helps with the design, but it won't be your typical, colonial back of the house. The entrance on the bottom there is into the garage, and then above is just a door onto that deck. Balcony, I guess.
Okay.
Other questions?
No. No.
Okay. Last call? Anybody else online?
David O'Rourke on Zoom said, I want to voice that I fully support a connected path eventually to Brennan Woods.
All right, great. Okay, if there's no other comments from either online or the applicant, we're going to close the hearing at 7:55. Thanks, guys.
Great, thanks for your time. Thank you.
Okay, dear people, go into deliberation. You can shut down the video.
Right, you're back.
All up? Okay, great, thank you very much. The Town of Williston's Development Review Board is out of deliberation at 8:09. Do I have a motion for the certificate of appropriateness for HB 26-02?
You do. I, Brian Curtis, move that the Williston Development Review Board accept the certificate of appropriateness HP 26-02.
Great, thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Pete seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 4 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Okay. Next up, do I have a motion for DP 19-11.1 Adams Road Properties?
Yes, as authorized by WDB 6.6.3, I, Pete Kelly, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and all accompanying materials, including the recommendations of the town staff and the advisory boards required to comment on this application by the Williston Development Bylaw, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing, of December 9, 2025, accept the recommendations for DP 19.11.1 and authorize this application to move forward to discretionary permit review and/or growth management. We do have a couple of amendments under the category of recommendations and motion. Number 2B is going to read, I will just read it in its entirety, WDB 13, driveway in compliance with width standard as applicable at time of complete submission of a discretionary permit, provide signage, sidewalks, and/or pavement markings or texture to reduce conflicts between cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles along the shared private driveway per WDB 13.3.2, period. Provide a sidewalk along the driveway segment from Caroline Court to the first unit. We're also going to amend number 2C. Number 2C will read in its entirety as follows. WDB 15, along the Lot 1 frontage, sidewalk completed along Caroline Court and multi-use path along Mountain View Road, along lots 2 and 9, provide multi-use path easement. And number 2F will read in its entirety, WDB 26 street trees along west and northern property frontages on roads. The required street trees may be cited to avoid conflicts with the multi-use path and/or utilities per DPW advice.
Great, thanks, Pete. Do I have a second?
Second?
Brian, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
4 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Let's see, we don't have any minutes to approve. Does anybody on the board want to have anything else they'd like to bring up?
Are there minutes from,
There should have been minutes, I might have forgotten to put them in the packet.
I'll note that they were online.
They were online. I can circulate them by email and we can do email consent.
Would you do that, please?
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have a quorum on the minutes anyway, because Jim would most likely recuse as he didn't attend that last meeting.
Right,
Or wasn't a board member at that last meeting.
right.
Yeah.
But we did have 4 at that time, correct? We did.
Yes,
So
yes,
if
yes.
you circulate it around to the people who attended it, we should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do unanimous consent of those in attendance. Right, right. Yep.
That would be great. Anything else the board, that anybody on the board would like to bring up?
Nope.
Hearing no, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
A second?
Great. I would like to mention that, Pete, it's been an honor.
Thank you, Scott.
I appreciate being able to sit next to you for the past 13 years and share the thoughts of the things that have come before the board.
Well, you'll probably see me again occasionally as an alternate, so until then, thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
It's
Pete.
been great.
13 years, it's incredible.
Anything further, Emily?
This is the last meeting of our year. No applications were filed for January 13th, so that's TBD if we get a certificate of appropriateness, and I would probably try to do that as a Zoom meeting rather than an in-person one.
Okay.
So see you guys in January, probably.
Nice.
Have good
Okay.
holidays.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.